Welcome to the Relationship Podcast, where your hosts, John, Andrey, and Ryan discuss relationship topics from an Asian American perspective. So buckle up and enjoy the ride.
What's up, guys? It's John from the Relationship Podcast, and let me introduce you to my better halves.
What up, everyone? It's Dre.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Ryan.
All right, let's just jump into our positive notes. Let's start with you, Dre.
Yeah, so this past weekend, I had some friends that came in from out of town. They used to be from, well, they're originally from here, but they moved up to Oregon for work. We actually did something pretty touristy down here, even though they're originally from here. One of the guy wanted to go see the Endeavor, the space shuttle that's in the LA Science Center right now.
Ah, okay,
That's
nice.
cool.
So we went to go see that, and that's pretty freaking cool, man. Like the thing that dawned on me is like those guys are working with there's a meme out there, and it's pretty funny. It's like what are you doing with this 4 kilobytes of RAM? Oh, we're just sending satellites up into space. It's like, what are you doing with that 16 gigs of RAM? I don't know. It's being fully utilized, and I think I have like Excel open somewhere.
Wow.
So yeah, like it's crazy to think like those guys used to be able to send stuff into space with like the technology that they had available at the time, whereas we have like crazy MacBook Pros and things like that, and it could barely run Chrome.
Or Internet Explorer.
Yeah, right.
Oh, boy.
Do you guys remember that quote from Armageddon when they were up in that space shuttle before they went to go to that planet? The guy's like, there's 1 million pieces in this space shuttle outsourced to the lowest bidder. And do you expect everything to work? I mean, it's a scary thought, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Now, the funniest part, and I think it was Armageddon, the Russian guy was just like, American components, Russian components, all come from Taiwan.
Wow.
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
think that was right after he said that, my
Right,
other
yeah.
quote. Yeah.
Wax poetic indeed.
What about you, Ryan?
So for those of you who are already in the know, pop culture wise and everything, this weekend's been pretty epic, especially for the nerdy / geek community. I mean, you have Avengers Endgame, you have Game of Thrones, which just happened recently. No spoilers, please. And if you're a Magic nerd like me and sometimes Andrey, War the Spark just actually happened, the pre-release this weekend. And so that was sort of an ode to those two other items too. And yeah, it was a pretty fun time. So.
Oh, damn, that's like a geek orgasm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nerdgasm.
Literally.
That's what we call them.
Literally.
Wow, okay. I hope you brought extra pants.
I did. And extra pockets too.
Swear Trojan everywhere you go.
Oh boy. Yep.
What's a good positive note? Recently I got back some money from my auto insurance company. Because a while back I got hit, or I mean, I wouldn't say hit, but I got a minor scrape on my vehicle. And then I just reported it and I got a bunch of money back. So that's nice to have some.
So what you do after someone scraped your car? What did you do with the money?
Oh, I just put it in my bank account.
Oh, you didn't like cheat yourself. You didn't,
No.
give yourself. All right.
No, I try not to do that.
All right. Did
you get it fixed?
All right.
No, it's minor. It's like paint transfer to the rim, and then there was like a little scrape on the rear that you can barely notice. But I mean, you really have to look to see it. But it wasn't. I mean, I heard the quote was like over $1,000. I'm like, what for that?
What?
Nah.
Jeez.
So they
Yeah.
paid you $1,000 for that?
A little bit over 1,000. Yeah.
Damn.
That's
Well, I mean,
fine.
I called them in. I was like, can I deposit this? I don't plan on getting it fixed. And they're like, yeah, go ahead. It's yours.
See, nice. The
Oh,
paint transfer, you
boy.
could probably get off with the clay bar if you really wanted to. Like,
Yeah,
it's not
just buffering it out.
To be honest, I don't even notice it anymore because after the rains, I think it just washed off.
Uh,
So it's, yeah.
Oh, all right.
Damn. All right.
All right. So in this podcast, episode 61, we continue our 3-topic, 1 podcast format. John wants to discuss the future of love. Dre wants to revisit Ross and Rachel regarding the motivation to move to another partner. And Ryan wants to review vulnerability. So we'll start off with my topic. I just call it not your typical love in society today. So when we were, back in the day, I mean, a lot of us, we joined clubs, right? And we've met people on there, and it wasn't a big deal. And sometimes, you might have dated someone from a club, a book club, chess club, whatever. It wasn't a big deal back then, right?
Yeah.
But now people are kind of like finding love in virtual reality, like online games. Now, how many of you do you guys know that actually found love in virtual reality?
From virtual reality specifically, I don't think I've known anyone. Maybe like online dating and things like that, sure, but not from virtual reality specifically. Even though, yeah, like I know a lot of people that play like MMOs and like WoW and a bunch of other. I even myself, I actually used to play Second Life. Not seriously by any stretch of the imagination, but just to check it out. And yeah, I know that people meet each other through there, but I've never encountered anybody that's actually done it.
Oh, okay. But do you know anyone that's at least dated or met in real life or anything of that sort?
Nothing coming to mind, but I feel like maybe because there's a little bit of a stigma attached to that still. Maybe
right.
they're probably more likely to say that they met on Tinder rather than like Lineage 2 or something, like.
No, I know.
Oh boy.
What about you, Ryan?
I'm actually the complete opposite. When I was younger, and including right now, I actually do know someone personally that did meet, not in VR specifically, but through online gaming, and they just got married recently. So congratulations to the lovely couple. I'll probably give you like an anonymous name like Gamer Girl and Gamer Guy somewhere in Europe. But yeah, congratulations to you two.
Do you know what game they played that they met
I
through?
believe they played a mixture of games, but one of them that they shared was Minecraft. So for all you looking for love over Minecraft, you could find your Minecraft guy or bae.
You gotta be very careful though, because the age
Yeah,
ages on online gaming.
Yeah. I'm totally cognizant of that. I'm sure they played other shared games. I don't know, and I'm not too familiar, but I just remembered from a story a while back. She told me that that's one of the games that they both shared because they just enjoyed playing Minecraft. So yeah,
Minecraft's been around for so long. I used to play Minecraft when it was in beta. That was like 10 years ago.
It's changed so much. It's actually
8 years ago.
Yeah,
like
it's its own cult phenomenon. Like I remember when Minecraft first came out, I thought it would be like Lego, but no, it's a completely different thing, and it's blown up into its own thing. So
yeah, because if you think about it, if like someone joined the alpha or beta like right around the time I did, and they were like 12 or 13,
yeah,
dude, they're like drinking age already.
I know.
Oh yeah,
right. If you do the math on that real quick.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. So
Dre, you brought up a good point about stigmatism of meeting people, like for example, online gaming. Why do you suppose that is?
I don't know. I feel like it's like games are still just stigmatized in general. Like if someone's like really into, like whenever Ryan talks about MTG or Magic the Gathering, like there's a stigma attached to it. Like, oh, like you must be a nerd to like that, or you must be a nerd to really like video games and things like that. Video games are every year they're coming more and more. They're closer and closer to the mainstream, but
yep.
Nonetheless, there's still like this stigmatization and this idea that or this stereotype or archetype or something that keeps getting perpetuated that like people who are really into this stuff, like that's their whole life. And in some case, I think it's because in many of the cases, the extreme cases, those are the ones that get brought to light the most. Whereas the average gamer you wouldn't be able to pick one out from a lineup. You just can't tell.
No.
Well, some of them.
Wow, John, way to play into the
stereotype.
Stereotype.
Some of them fit into that stereotype, though.
Oh,
you
yeah,
gotta admit.
absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Like the more extreme cases, the ones that what we call like otakus, or like the really like obsessive ones. Yeah, absolutely. Like the people that were like that let WoW take over their lives. Then obviously, those are the people that are gonna get like the most media attention, for example, or like the people that are like really high level in those games. That's because they eat, sleep, and drink that game. Like that's just their life. But that's not to say that like, dude, I really like video games, and yet I like to think I have a social life. Like I don't think you can really tell if I didn't like talking about it that I was really into it. So
okay. Ryan, what about you? How do you feel about the stigmatism attached?
I mean, it kind of plays into what's going on currently in society, right? Growing up, I remember comic book nerds were in the same line as MTG nerds, were in the same line as anybody who is in their mom's basement participating in any of these hobbies. Now you have all these people into the MCU universe. DC Comics is trying to catch up with their own Justice League, and now everybody thinks like they know comics from the 90s, right? It's really stupid. But I think the other good thing about it now is it shows that there are people that can be healthy about their hobbies and not conform to these stereotypes, because I guarantee you, like, if you were to see people like Andrey and I participating in this type of stuff, you would have never guessed it. So we're definitely people who come from different backgrounds, and yet we have love for these type of hobbies on a regular basis. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so let's move on to something different. We'll just call it objectum sexuality. That's where people fall in love with inanimate objects. I know, Ryan. Yeah, Ryan, you've talked about it previously, and so I thought I'd kind of bring this up.
Yeah.
Like, why do you think people fall in love with inanimate objects?
So, in previous episodes, for those of you who didn't listen to it, and I'm blanking out on the episode that we talked about it. I believe it was the technology one.
Yeah. I think it's
a lot of times, I think people fall in love with inanimate objects because there's not only a psychological trigger behind it, and there's actually publications that support this, but I believe it's also this idea of love and its capacity to be manifested. And so, in instance, there was a lady who fell in love with a roller coaster ride. Yes, a roller coaster ride. And she was so intoxicated by it because of all the hormones and everything that just triggered when she was on this ride. It was replicated in the same context as if someone met the one. And so I think, from a biological perspective and a psychological perspective, that's why people do that. But I think the other piece about it too, and this is probably a little bit somber, is the idea that there might be a little bit more of an innate issue that's going on with the individual, whether it's a void or a lack of that's going on in their life. And it's not for me to judge them for it, but, it kind of makes me sad to think about why people use these sort of, escapes of objective sexuality to do this.
Do you have a take on it, Andrey?
I don't know. Like, I would imagine that they like falling in love with things they can't talk back, because that's a pretty damn good reason. You ask me.
That's actually where I was headed.
Yeah, right?
That's how I feel too.
It's not really.
I mean, I think they've given up on a human being.
How do you fight with something that's inanimate, right? Like, you can't. Like, they're always gonna agree with you, always. So
yeah.
Wow, that doesn't set a very good precedent with the.
Yeah, they are always right.
Yeah, there's no losing that argument. It's wild too, because like in one of the articles that you guys linked, someone married a train station.
Yeah.
That was interesting, and I think someone married like a bridge or something like that. It's like how does that even? How do you get married to something that you may not even necessarily have? It's like public space,
Right?
Yeah.
How do you get married to a public? I don't necessarily. I guess I don't necessarily have what's it called? An opposition, I guess, to someone falling in love with inanimate objects. But who like officiated a marriage between someone and like a public space? Like how is that? Is that even legal? Like I don't understand how that it would be considered a marriage. Not saying that their feelings aren't genuine. I'm just saying like how did that? Is that, do you even get a certificate for that? Like, I don't know. I'm not being facetious.
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know. I'm thinking about it myself.
Yeah, I mean, there's
so.
a lot of questions. I mean, if it gets torn down, do you get half or what?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, joking aside, like that's some shit. Like, because at least the roller coaster makes sense. Because I believe she owned it. She bought it or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Because it got
she did.
decommissioned or something, like got damaged.
That's right. You're absolutely right. Yep.
And then she ended up putting money to get it restored, and then she married it. But like that's still kind of actually makes sense to me. The public space ones don't. I don't. That one doesn't make sense to me. Not that I'm making a value judgment on it. It's just how is that a thing?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they didn't use a real pastor.
Oh boy.
or whatever they believe in.
Of course.
Wonder if they had to pay a fee for that.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know. No judgment.
Who do you even go to for that? Like, now I kind of want to look it up.
Usually, I mean, without going too, deep in the rabbit hole, usually there's some sort of governing body with regards to acknowledging these relationships. It's not necessarily religious sake, but usually the city or the county provides those kind of services, albeit a bit unorthodox, but it happens, so.
Okay. Since we're kind of talking about inanimate objects, what do you think it's the appeal of having robots as lovers, like in the future?
I feel like it's the same thing, no? Like, well, robots as in,
Well, okay, so these days, people are buying these sophisticated, sex robots, and then some of them are actually marrying them. I mean, that's odd. And even in movies, sometimes, it's probably a Bruce Willis movie or some sort.
Just throw Bruce Willis under the bus. You weird old man. Fall in love with a Fifth Element robot. Who do you think you are?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We're talking about the future. What happens? I mean,
she was a robot.
Oh no!
No, she was. John was just being
Jovovich or whatever.
She was a shell, but we're not gonna try to get too much into this.
I haven't seen that movie since it came out like 20 freaking
well,
years
it was
ago,
a long time ago.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably the same as the inanimate object thing. Whereas, but with the only distinction being that I guess this is a little bit more humanoid, because I mean,
I'm assuming there'd be some AI involved.
Right. Yeah. Also, I guess it would be kind of more like what was that Joaquin Phoenix movie?
Oh, great.
Oh no, what was it called? Her?
Oh yeah. I don't remember.
I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
I didn't see it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The premise of the movie is that he legit like falls in love with like his AI assistant.
Yeah,
and his AI assistant's like fully like integrated to like the internet and like can learn like behavioral patterns and really develop like what's it called, like human like tendencies, I guess. And yeah, he falls in love with her, and that's what the entire movie's about. So like maybe it's that, like, and the funny thing is they actually like fight in the movie as well. And maybe is the added layer of dating, AI or a robot with something that sophisticated. Then maybe you can still have that what's it called, like human interaction, without having to really worry about, the other person getting sick. If you really wanted to, you could probably make it so that they can't cheat on you or leave you or, die for that matter. So a lot of those fears get alleviated when you have a relationship or, get married to something of this nature.
Okay. How do you feel about it, Ryan?
Yeah, Andrey took a lot of the good pieces, but essentially to sum it up, I have to make an argument that, you have a little bit of a complex, right? A little bit of a God complex. It's like, I'm dictating the behavior of this robot and I could make it do what I want it to do, right? You're sort of in that control and in that mind state. And I think, with the exception of Krillin, throwback, hashtag Dragon Ball Z fans, I feel like that's the biggest thing is when people are in human to human relationships, you don't have that type of control. You don't have that complex and that presence of, I could be intimate and do this stuff and not feel guilty about it. So without preempting myself on my topic, I think that's what's the biggest appeal of having a robot as a lover.
Okay. Okay, so do you guys think there's a fear that normal human relationships will eventually become obsolete? Though I don't think that will ever happen. I think it'll be like maybe, I don't know, 2% of the population or even that.
Yeah, that's pretty much the feeling I have on it. I feel like the people that are more inclined to have relationships with inanimate objects, whether it be robots or just bridges, I think that's still going to be a small minority or subset of people. Whereas more oftentimes than not, especially since we're kind of pre-wired to want to reproduce. To a certain extent, I feel like that instinct that we kind of evolved with is still going to be mostly predominant in the population. So, that's pretty much my take on it.
Again, without preempting my own topic, I think one of the biggest things to think about is maybe not in our immediate lifetime, and by lifetime I'm saying in the next 50 to 100 years, but in the next 200 years, there may be some form of transcendence or interpretation of what a normal human relationship would look like. And yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Oh, you mean a human and robotic relationship?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I think without spilling it to the rest of the audience, I think that's where I'm kind of headed with my topic to an extent.
Okay. Would you ever replace your significant other with a robot?
No. Absolutely not.
Okay. Do you guys remember that
Black Mirror?
Yeah, Black Mirror episode. Yeah.
Was this a Black Mirror episode?
Yeah,
really?
it was in the second season. Oh no, was it first season?
I think it was the first season.
Might have
I didn't watch
season.
This episode.
Her
but
husband,
no,
her husband passes away, and then I guess they create clones, sort of robotic clones of whoever you want. And some people do it to replace their deceased relatives, and it uses this crazy machine learning thing to go back through past emails and all this stuff to build out their personality. So it's as close to them as possible.
I'm gonna say no, but again, because this kind of airs on what I'm gonna talk about later, I'm gonna leave my thoughts to ruminate a little bit. So yeah.
All right. Well, I'll pass it on to Andrey on his topic then.
Yeah, sure. So, like John alluded to in the beginning, ever since I guess Ross moved already from our previous episode.
What up, Ross?
keeps tripping me out because that's definitely not his name. It's not even close. But yeah. So with him moving, and then I had my friends that came over for this past weekend who used to live here, and they moved because of work. So I started thinking to myself hey, what would it take for me to move? And so here are a few scenarios, and I wanted to get your takes on if you guys would move in these situations. So the first scenario is, like my friends that live in Oregon now, your partner finds a job and that requires her to move to that area. Guess what was it, Ryan first, I guess?
Sure. So if my partner finds a job that requires her to move, I think the first conversation I would need to have is essentially if I already have a job, if we both have jobs currently in terms of where we're living at, I need to check with my company to see if they're willing to allow me to work remotely in this transition. Because if not, she would have to be okay with kind of supporting the both of us while I transition into a new position, especially if I want to build a family with her in the long run.
Okay, fair enough. John?
If you're married, I assume you would go, and if she's making more money or whatnot, then yeah, I would go. But if I was like, I was just dating someone, it's my girlfriend or whatever, and if she wanted me to move, I may look into it, but not necessarily. But it depends where she goes, though. Location matters. If it's like
Idaho.
Yeah. Then I'm like,
just pick
juices.
a state.
Don't mean to throw shade on Idaho, but
Yeah, if it's a major metropolitan city, then I'll be down, because I mean, you gotta think about it. Most likely there will probably be more jobs out there for you to get. But if it's like Idaho, where jobs are probably not plentiful, I have no idea. Then it's less likely I think I would go.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's actually one of the assessments that I kind of made in my head as well. Like if my wife had to move to like buttfuck Egypt or something like that, and I had to I had to figure it out. I mean, I would probably be okay, just only because I know that my skill set can transfer to a lot of different industries, so I don't even necessarily have to find work within the industry that I'm in right now. I feel pretty confident that I would be able to find work regardless, but yeah, if that wasn't the case, and I kind of had already a career path, I mean, I would definitely think twice. If I'm married to her, then obviously that kind of changes things. And if she becomes a breadwinner because of this job move, then that's also a key factor. But if it's someone that I'm just dating and she needs us to move to like Baton Rouge or something, that's a tough sell. That job market is not, compared to California, compared to where we are, I feel like we're kind of spoiled too. I feel like that kind of skews the data a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Yep.
Okay,
I agree.
So second scenario is work asks you to relocate, and this assumes that they'll cover the relocation costs, and there'll be just enough of an increase in pay for you, just enough for you to consider it. Ryan, we'll start with you.
I think it depends on the increase of pay. I'm assuming based off of the way it is phrased that I would be somewhat of a breadwinner, or it's more than enough. So if it's in that range, then obviously I would bring it up to my partner and I would say to them like, hey, this is how much I'm making. And, it'll be a little bit of a shift of our lives, but is this something you're willing to do? And this kind of comes back to this whole idea of negotiation and communication with your partner, because although it's a really lofty salary for you and a great responsibility to advance in your career, your partner may not have that flexibility or availability in their vocation or in their aspirations. But thankfully, both me and my girl were pretty flexible. So yeah, this wouldn't be too much of an issue, especially if I could be the breadwinner.
Okay.
Yeah, for me it depends on where.
This is a sticking point, isn't it, for you?
It is a sticking point.
John just wants to get lit. He just wants to get wasted wherever he goes.
No, it's not that. I lived in California for like so long, so you're accustomed to we're spoiled. We have great weather. We have sun all the time. We can go to the beaches. We can go skiing probably in the same day.
Mm-hmm. This is true, yeah.
Do you ski, John? Do you really ski?
Oh, okay,
and go to
snowboard.
beaches?
Okay,
okay, so you snowboard.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it really depends on where. But I'm open to going anywhere. I mean, as long as it's near a metropolitan city. But I already know for sure that my partner will not be coming with me if that were the case.
Yeah, that's something to consider as well. Yeah, that's definitely an option. I mean, there's nothing in the question that says like you have to bring them with you.
Yeah,
that's also an option.
Right.
If especially if you're not actually married to them or anything like that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, if you want to bounce, just bounce. For me, like, I probably wouldn't. I mean, it would take a lot for me to even consider it, because I feel like even if they offered me something crazy with a nice title change and an increase in pay, I feel like it wouldn't be worth it. There are very few places in the country that I would be willing to relocate to, and that would only be if I like visited that place fairly recently. So like because I've been all over the US, but like my memory's not so fresh on like some of the places. So
Yeah.
I'd want to at least go there, I guess, vacation for like a week and then kind of figure it out from there just to see how it is day to day. But chances are, it's not something I'm particularly interested in. I would rather just find another job. Yeah. So
Well, I mean, yeah, if they were willing to let you work out there for like a week just to see how it is before you make a decision, that'd be dope.
Yeah, that would be a requirement
Yeah.
for me. Like I wouldn't even.
Yeah.
I would have to tell them like, hey, I want to work out there for however long, and then make a decision. Then I'm not making any. Like you cannot even put a number on it. Like.
Well, just to give you guys context, I know personally some family members and some friends who've gone through this transition with their families and their significant others, and work does more often than not, if your work is valuable to the company, they'll give you that option. So,
Yeah, I think so too, because it's more work for them to try to replace you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's actually what my brother-in-law had to go through. They're living in Arizona now, so that was a tough sell, but I mean it was worth it for them to move out there, so that's where they are now.
Yeah.
Well, Arizona's kind of up and coming. I have a friend who lives out there. They're getting a lot of new stuff, and it's becoming, I don't know what's a better word, more hip.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Oh.
It's not there yet though. I can tell you that. Yeah, you'll have to go visit. Yeah.
Dre wants it to be hip now.
Yeah. Dre,
that's a
it
tough sell
doesn't
for me.
earn Dre's seal of approval.
The only cool thing about there, or for me personally, would be the firearm laws, because they're so lax out there. Like,
Yeah.
you can own an automatic like weapon out there as long as you have the right
Yeah.
stamps. Like, you can't even come close to that here.
Yeah.
Would I buy one? No, but like it's just nice to know that I have the freedom to do so. But yeah, that's Arizona specifically.
It's nice to have options.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the final scenario is the market in which you work becomes inhospitable for that industry. So like tech, firearm, like I mentioned, tax regulations, things like that. I mean, we're pretty familiar with how California is very inhospitable to small businesses due to the LLC tax and things like that. Like, would that be something that you would move for?
Go on. Let me ask. So the company is going to move, and they want you to go with them. Is that what you're asking?
Either the company's going to move, or you own the business, let's say hypothetically, and it's just you can't cut it here. Like, it doesn't make any financial sense for you to stay here, or for whatever reason. Like, it's just it just makes your operation so much more difficult to be in wherever you are right now.
Okay, you're up, Brian.
So I think the context is, first, again, how much money am I going to be making when I make this move? Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be different? Right? Because standard of living always has to be maintained. That's sort of the constant in this conversation. But I believe the other piece about it too is, if I'm a business owner, thankfully in the current context, with the exception of our podcast, I don't have any other businesses, and therefore, I don't have to worry about that too much personally. But if it were to come down to it again, this has to be a focal discussion point with me and my partner, and sort of sharing them the current state of affairs and what we would do to pivot and adjust for our standard of living moving forward. So
let me recontextualize this actually. So the reason that I phrased it this way is kind of to get away from the whole pay issue, mainly because the thing is, like, it's the industry that you work. That's basically the entire industry is moving because of the regulations. So like you can't necessarily find work within that industry anymore. If you want to stay, you have to switch jobs.
Sure.
So is that something you'd be willing to do?
I mean, in a lot of what I've been talking about in the Shuffle Around Life articles, for the audience listening, definitely read it and check it out. But yeah, I've been definitely thankful enough that my skill set and my work experience allows me to hop between industries, so I don't have to stay in tech, even though that's where I came from. So yeah, I'm pretty flexible, but if push comes to shove, especially if the standard of living is necessary for both me and my partner, then we'll do what's necessary, especially if we have to move.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I've moved around in different industries for most of my career, so I don't think it'd be a problem if I look for another job. But I mean, if there's a lot of upside in moving to wherever they go, then, I would consider it. If I owned a company that had to like move out of state, then I probably would, because, as a business owner, you just gotta do what you do to get your company to stay afloat, especially if you want to, continue being a business owner.
Yep.
I guess we're all kind of on the same boat. We've all kind of hopped around between different industries, so ditto. I didn't really see that coming. I guess, thinking back on it now, I probably should have known, based on knowing you guys, that this would probably be the answer.
Whatever. Hey, what does that mean?
It's a good thing. No, it just means we're pretty well rounded. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me round out my kind of section of the podcast with what kind of pay or benefits would you need to take a job in a part of the country where you would be completely isolated from your like current friends and family, like let's say geographically speaking, like Hawaii or Alaska even.
So speaking from personal experience, because I almost partaked in a job in Alaska. I think at the time what it almost took me was 2.5 to 3x what I was previously making. Obviously, I need to make a lot more now due to inflation and standard of living. But ideally, I would have to pick Hawaii if it would have to be between those two.
Maybe I should have said Hawaii. I need this to be a very hard decision. So like Alaska or like Montana.
Yeah. That 1,000 stipend or 1,200 now is not going to be enough. But yeah, I would say about 3 to 4x what I've been making. That would definitely I would give it a hard thought to actually move my to be isolated. Yeah. For sure.
John, what about you?
I'm open to negotiation.
I mean, everyone's open to negotiation.
He's gonna leave the door open on that one.
But I guess the thing is, it's not a big deal that I'm kind of isolated from my current friends and family, because I kind of feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just my age thing, but my family lives in New York, so it's not like I see them all the time anyways. True, yeah. And even my current friends, my really close friends, they have families, they have their own thing, and we probably barely see each other maybe, once a month, if that. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't be, I don't think that would be such a big deal to me, because, you can always, there's always the phone and, Skype and FaceTime, and it's not such a big deal to me.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you're already isolated, but you're balling with the salary, you could technically fly back, right?
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's kind of the idea, yeah. But that would still be a pretty bad inconvenience.
Yeah.
Like a 30-40 minute drive to LA turns into a 4-hour flight. Like, yeah, that's heavy.
Well, not to again preempt your not preempt, but take over your copy, Dre, but we did talk in previous episodes. There are people who work in other states flying to California for work and then flying back after the weekend. So it does happen, and people are willing to do that.
Well, I hear, people who can't afford housing in the Bay Area, that's what they do. Or they negotiate to do so. Yeah. So I think there was an article, I don't remember when it was, but the possibility is you can own your own place in Vegas, fly out to San Francisco, and then come back, and it'd still be cheaper than paying rent in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
God, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah. So it's starting to happen. It just depends on your industry, right?
Yeah, there's so much caca on the streets. You have to pay so much. Jeez.
There was actually a guy in our office that does that.
He cacas in the streets of San Francisco. Oh, you know that guy?
Yeah.
Have you seen the poop map?
no.
The poop map is it's pretty brown, man. Like it's lit up there.
It
He's
is
doing a lot of work.
As someone who's working in San Francisco, yeah, it's definitely lit up here.
No, I mean he lives. He has his family out in Utah, but he sees them maybe once a month. He flies back.
What? That's intense.
Yeah, and no one knows what he really does.
Wow.
Actually, I have another friend that works in that Oregon company, and he flies back like twice a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to visit his girl and his family, because they haven't moved up yet. His girl hasn't been able to move up yet, so yeah, they're he's just bouncing back and forth, which is
That's crazy.
kind of nuts. Yeah, it's not a short flight. I mean, it is like a 2.5 hour flight,
2.5,
Yeah,
something like that. But I mean, still, that's like, you burn that time on Friday after you get off work, and then you have to burn that time again on Sunday
Sunday
when
night.
you go back. Yeah. So.
Yo, but he's probably racking up the points, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
true
yeah.
that.
He's banking on that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if I could just answer the question really quickly, I mean, it would take a whole lot. Like I would it would be a lifestyle change. Like it would be like something where everything is Amazon Prime in my life.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because I don't want to go out
Yeah.
and learn a new city. I'm just gonna stay home and order everything on Amazon Prime. And
Damn.
it has to be a situation where I can pretty much afford anything I want to get,
Yeah.
because I need to keep myself busy. Otherwise, because I have friends and family here to keep me busy. But if I'm completely isolated from them, I want something else to keep me busy.
Yeah.
So you gotta be making 6 digits for sure, then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Minimum.
Yeah,
Oh,
minimum. Yeah, for sure.
That's bare minimum.
Yeah.
Gotta go way above that.
Hey, yeah, you gotta. Yeah, that's setting the bar low, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so we'll go ahead and pass it over to Ryan.
All right. So, my topic is all about the state of vulnerability in 2019. So my first question to you guys is, do you guys feel like social media makes youth more or less vulnerable in 2019? Go ahead, Dre, start it off.
Oh, once again, I thought it was going to be John, but
Oh, it could be John, yeah, or John.
I mean,
Doesn't matter.
I can go if you want me to
Yeah,
go.
go ahead, John. Sorry.
we'll just keep the order going. So yeah, John.
Okay,
go first.
all right. Yes, because I get yes, it makes youth more vulnerable in 2019.
The same shit happened to you that it did to me. See, told you. Yeah, yes.
Okay, go ahead. Why is that, John?
I think people are so open now that they put anything on social media. I think that becomes a problem because now people can know more intimate details about them, like where they are. They can track them. They know what they like, what they don't like. And
Sure.
I think that could be dangerous when it comes to like, predators, like
Yeah.
stuff like that. And also, some people put stuff that's probably not appropriate to put on social media, like, how their physique and especially women. And
Yeah.
And also, I'm trying to think what else. Like personal issues online. And people are like, with the whole cyberbullying thing, human beings are pretty cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
DGAF everywhere.
Yep. DGAF indeed. All right. What about you, Dre? What do you think?
I feel like so it's both vulnerable and gullible. I don't know if you guys saw this. Oh man, I forgot where it was. But someone showed like this 19-year-old that was on social media, and I guess he's an aspiring graphic artist or whatever, and he was like faking Coachella pictures just to show how.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah, just to show how it's so easy for influencers to just kind of fake the funk, and like this whole idea of influencers and trying to live like lavish lives, and like I guess part of the messaging is like positivity and things like that, but like
Sure.
people are having more and more unrealistic kind of lofty goals that they're trying to achieve, and while goals are good, like the grasp on reality is kind of blurred. Like, some things you can do and some things you can't. And like, I don't know, everyone tries to do everything now because that's what the influencers say. So, I mean, in that sense, I feel like, and everyone wants to become an influencer. So in that sense, yeah, like everyone's just trying to put everything all out there, and they probably shouldn't for their own safety. And it's kind of funny too, because like, I don't know, like whenever I travel, like people, anybody who's ever been on my Instagram, like it probably pisses them off because it's usually just me posting about this podcast, even though like a lot more stuff goes on in my life. But I don't like people knowing where I am necessarily. I definitely, I tend not to like posting when I'm on vacation because that lets the entire, like I won't post I'm on vacation till I get back, usually. Like, because I don't like people knowing that I'm out of town. Because then you know that there's no one at my house.
Right.
You can just jack me. Like, I mean, it's common sense to like us older generation who kind of existed before social media, but to a lot of these kids that are like, they grew up with it. Like, it's ever since they were an adolescent, this is like part of their social interaction. They don't understand that, like, hey, like you probably shouldn't post like vacation pictures that you're gone, like, 3 months out of the year or whatever, because I mean, that goes into the wrong hands. Like, you might come back and your shit's empty.
Right.
So,
yeah. Might as well leave the door open.
Yeah, just post your address and social security and all that stuff. Might as well.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I bring this up is, it's exactly as you put it, Dre. A lot of these kids actually grew up at the second and later stages of the internet being developed. So now we're seeing this sort of apex turn to where it's kind of like, well, as a teenager, I'm comfortable with social media and all my friends are on it. So it's really integrated into my life. But the other piece about it that I think is really fascinating is, people are actually accepting donations freely through their personal social media accounts. You see people saying like, oh, if you want a premium Snapchat of me, you could PayPal me like $5. And I don't know about you guys, but that sets off a really bad digital precedent for what social media really needs to be used as, influencer or not. So that's the reason why I brought this up. Which,
they're not getting my money.
No, they're not getting your money, but I'm saying like, this is what teenagers are paying now. Like parents now have to worry about random PayPal charges because they want that premium snap. It's not enough to slide into the DMs anymore. Apparently it's pay as you play. You know what I mean? Hashtag random emojis.
These kids know about like Pornhub, right? Like, it's
no, but that's what I'm saying. No, but that's what I'm saying is they're taking it to another level now. Now it's like, it's one thing to view public pornography, or rather, pornography on the web, but they want that more intimate, good stuff, if you know what I mean.
There's Pornhub Premium. At least it's a reputable company.
Oh man. Well, I think it's just different because I think a lot of these people, they just want to see how their peers are in a different light, and they're willing to quote unquote pay the price on that. Maybe that could be a future podcast episode if you guys are interested in hearing our thoughts on that. So
that essentially they're paying for friends.
Yeah, paying for friends and without again going too deep into it, but potentially paying for digital digital prostitution in that sense. Right? Cuz you're literally donating to someone of the opposite sex or to an influencer to see something premium of their content. And premium, that's a very sliding scale in 2019,
Dude,
Pornhub aside.
Just make a podcast. You'll get dick pics for free. Pro tip.
Oh, boy. All right. To kind of switch gears with the vulnerability, one of the articles I read, I'm very keen on reading a lot of business articles. They talk about vulnerability and leadership. So my question to you guys, starting off with you, John, is it necessary for a leader to be vulnerable in order to become successful in managing their team?
As long as it's genuine, they're not doing it just to get people to like him.
So genuine,
Or
like
her,
the
or her.
singer, or genuine.
Well, what do you think?
I'm just making a bad joke, but go on.
Yeah, I think if it's genuine, and I mean, obviously, people like what's that whole psychology thing, the mirror effect, where to get someone to like you, they oftentimes you want to have the same characteristics or features or whatever with each other. That way, people are more they're more able to relate to you. So I guess, yeah, like I said, only if it's genuine, people would be like, oh, hey, he's just like me as well. He's a human being, goes through all the emotions I go through. And I think people think that they're relatable. And that's I think that's how most people, that's how people relate to you. I don't know what I'm saying, but that's how.
All right, lip smack. All right, switching over to you, Dre. I hope I get more than lip smacks.
Yeah, no.
But I get your point, John.
No, yeah,
Jokes
we got
aside.
that. We got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just wanted you to finish your thought because I wasn't just going to start answering the question.
I know.
I couldn't get past relate. I used it 100 times.
I feel like there's with regards to strong leadership, I feel like there's enough managing styles, I guess you could say, to where vulnerability isn't really a prerequisite. In my opinion, I feel like people who are the most successful at leading a team are the ones who, they're able to, they lead by example, I guess would be the easiest way. No one likes to follow someone who they think is lazier than them. It's really hard to motivate someone if they think you're lazy. Cause
it's not inspirational.
Yeah. Cause the other thing too is like, well, if you're not doing like your part of the work, like why should I? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
that doesn't even go to like management. That just goes to like coworkers and stuff like that. Like you might be working on a team, like your other teammates might even be like that. So yeah, I don't think that you necessarily have to be vulnerable. I feel like just being self-motivated enough and showing that you're doing your part to both advance the project as well as, them as your subordinate, that would be enough.
Okay. Cool. Well, I mean, my only thoughts on this is simply, as you put it, people need to sort of prime and sort of, as you put it, lead by example. So they prime the model behavior of this is what you have to do to succeed in this team and in this organization. So let's, buck up and get to it. Right. But I think the reason why vulnerability is a key trait that's highlighted not only within our resource article, but in many managerial styles is that vulnerability, people say like, oh, if you're a leader, you can't show weakness because the moment you show weakness, people will take advantage of you, and I think a lot of people confuse, the act of, showing that you're human and that you're prone to making mistakes, but you're still steadfast and you're still, you're still pretty, pragmatic in your methodology of work, that people think that you have to be a hard ass every time to get your point across and to get people on your team. So that's why I bring this piece up. To not only switch gears again, my next question to you guys, and it's a little bit heavy, is the act of suicide, I believe, is a state of vulnerability. So according to many publications, as well as the resource article, why do you guys feel like men go through it more often than women? Let's start off with you, John.
Why do men go through the thoughts of suicide more
No,
often
the act
than...
of suicide, meaning they actually, they go through with it. They kill themselves. One and done. That's it.
Well, thank you
Endgame.
for that.
Snap.
Got it. Well, I think there's scientific research that women, they know how to deal with their problems better than men.
Mm-hmm.
They usually have a network to support them. While I think most guys are very, they have to be the men, they have to be strong. And it's weird to, tell it, when your friends like, oh, you're depressed or, shit's going on. And I think men usually just bottle it inside. And that's why, and they're afraid to kind of like tell other people what's going on with them. And maybe that's why they think suicide's the only option for them.
Okay. How about you, Jay? What do you think?
It's more or less the same. I feel like there's a stigmatization against men, in terms of their outlets of emotion, I guess. It's not very acceptable for men to cry or for men to, complain about this and that. They're just supposed to be the ones that just, take it and just keep moving on. And that's just part of the way that we're supposed to operate. But, while that may work for a lot of us, me and myself included, that's pretty much the ethos that I have in my life. Just deal with it and move on. It doesn't necessarily work for everyone. And to try and cast this like super wide net or like blanket term, all men and their problem solving ability, it is a bit of a misnomer. And I feel like that might be the main contributing factor. Like it's just the fact that like everyone, even if they reach out, like a lot of times maybe even their friends will probably be like, dude, like, it's not that bad, just just kind of get back on your feet, and that's pretty much the most advice that they get, that's
yeah.
and
seriously.
So and then they try it and it's not working for them for whatever reason. Maybe that person doesn't know the other person that well and doesn't know that they're really struggling with stuff and gives them that advice, and they try doing it and they're like, I can't seem to like get back on my feet. And so that I feel like the only reasonable thing to do at this point is just take my own life. So that's kind of like the stark reality of it. But that's I guess that would be my take on it as to why this happens.
Small follow-up, do you guys feel like with a lot of campaigns like the Me Too movement and being a little bit more liberal about your problems, do you think that's starting to change now, or do you think it's still all the same?
I don't know. I think it's still the same.
I would say, there's a lot of different movements and some of them are more conducive to suicide than others. Cause I don't know if you guys know about the whole, incel movement.
Somewhat, but go ahead and educate us, Andrey. What is the incel movement?
Incel stands for involuntary celibacy. Mm-hmm. And these guys basically, they want to get laid, but they just can't, and it just never happens for them. Like the 40-year-old virgin, personified, I guess.
Okay.
And they've actually been accredited with some of the more recent mass shootings and bombings and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're just frustrated, and they come from this community where they're just very anti-feminist, anti-societal, almost anarchist in a way. There's that subset that just, that they're the extremist, obviously, that they kind of, get propagated through the media. But there's also the other side of the whole incel community where they're there to support each other. But yeah, that there's those kind of movements as well to kind of think about, as to why maybe that might even be making the situation worse. I don't know. I can't really make a value judgment on it, but I do know that that exists as a thing. So.
Okay. Didn't know.
They gotta get a love robot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or something. I don't know.
Marry a bridge or something.
Oh boy. Speaking about love robots, and again, this is why I didn't want to preempt myself. My a few last questions is, do you guys feel like artificial intelligence will allow humans to be more or less vulnerable in the future? And this kind of parlays into that whole conversation of intimacy and involvement with sex robots. So, John, go ahead, take it away. What do you think?
Okay, so AI will help humans become more? So that's the question itself.
Yeah,
So whether
more
they
or less vulnerable. That's the first question. Yeah.
I would probably say it would make them less vulnerable, because then, and I'm assuming you're just referring to sex robots.
But not, let's just say AI as a whole, like it could
AI
be
as
more than sex robots. It could be like an advanced version of Siri or an advanced version of,
the whole point of AI is to take to kind of mitigate risk, right? And kind of, essentially taking the human intellect out of each equation and letting the computer do it yourself.
Well, it's just pattern recognition. You lay those patterns, you lay those patterns out, and then it starts picking up, and adapting to whatever you feed into it. Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, so I would probably say probably less vulnerable in the future, if it's used correctly.
Okay, Dre.
I rarely am on the fence about things, and I feel like this kind of it could go either way. And the reason I say that is because it would make them less vulnerable in a sense, because they have this interaction with something that doesn't necessarily have human tendencies, or I guess like the human unpredictability. But at the same time, I don't know if you guys have like a AI assistant or whatever, like whether it be Siri, or if you guys use it on the regular Siri, Google Assistant, Alexa.
I don't use it on the regular, but I'm familiar with the technology, so I know what you're coming from.
Because I feel like if those things go into like very, very high adoption rates, like in the 95 percentile or whatever, it could make people more vulnerable to each other. Because the thing is, like, if your main interaction is with something that can't lie to you, is always right, and you're the way things are going right now, you're okay with kind of sharing your more intimate details with, whether it be like, right now it's just like, oh yeah, doctor's appointment, like what's on my schedule, like all my friends' contacts and contact info, like all my text messages, like, most AIs can read through that if they really wanted to. Google compiles it. I didn't opt in, but that's a different topic altogether. But yeah, like if that's your main interaction, like what happens when you actually are confronted with a real human being that can actually process that information and do something completely different than what your assistant does with it, like whether it be to harm you or to manipulate you, and things like that. So yeah, it really depends on, I guess it really depends on adoption rate and how, it's too early to tell which way it would go in my mind, the way I see this kind of playing out. So, but I do feel like it could go either way depending on how it plays out.
So,
the other thing is, if autocorrect is any indication of AI, then we're screwed.
Oh yeah.
Actually, the complete opposite. That means we're better off because they still make mistakes. You want them to make mistakes, not less mistakes. That's the big difference.
As long as they can learn from them, right?
No, well, you don't want them to be perfect, because then that opens up a whole nother can of worms. So without speaking too much of my biases about AI and sort of machine learning, follow-up question, based off of social media, based off of the elections and how they were kind of manipulated using data, why do you guys think AI will dictate how frequently men and women have sex?
Like, in what manner? Like,
so the manner is because there's a lot of regulation and talks about how the previous election, there was a lot of sway of influence because of chatbots. Chatbots are run on AI systems. And so now those systems are sort of tweeting, coercing public opinion and political opinion. And it sort of swayed a lot of what people thought was right or what's counterintuitive about a particular campaign. And Democrats and Republicans will argue this to the very end, but I'm not here for that. The biggest thing is, if AI has the power to do that, to sway public opinion, do you think with all the technology now, will it dictate how frequently men and women have sex in the future? They have all your information. They know how often you see your wife or your husband. they talk to you, as Andrey put it. You share intimate details. What do you think?
How will it? I don't think it would change how often men and women have sex, to be honest.
Okay, why do you think that?
Because I just think, I mean, if these people are horny, they'll want to do it. If they're not, they won't.
Okay, well, my counterpoint would be like, oh, here's your AI saying, hey, John, here's all your schedules. And that 7:00 dinner, you might be late to these other appointments or meetings with your friends that you might not have time for your sexy time appointment with wifey. I think
Would
you should
someone
count
really
that.
put that in the calendar?
I mean, I'm just using it in a very John 10-esque way, but, substitute that for however euphemism or language you want to put for intimate time, right? If you put it in your calendar,
Well, the only thing I think that could sway how often you have sex is if they do it in marketing. If they use it in marketing, if I don't know, what we're talking about, Pornhub decides they needed some AI, and they send you, I don't know, advertisement for condoms. Maybe that'll sway you to have more sex. I don't know. I mean, we could be swayed by marketing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually pretty much the line of thought that I was going to take.
All right. Go ahead, Dre.
Since you put it in the context of the Russia involvement in our elections, I feel like that would be probably the main way AI is used in terms of people having sex, because I don't really see another benefit for AI to want to do that. But if you're using it in the context of let's say it's data farmers are using it to kind of increase the the sell-through rate of one of their sex products or whatever, whether it could be anything. It could be from lingerie. It could be it could even be selling romantic dinners or sheets or anything remotely related to it. In that context, I feel AI could be used to create not only just what are those things called? I guess triggers for you to think about it, but also be able to, because we've kind of seen this, but use language in such a way and kind of subtext in some of the other stuff that you're consuming, any other media that you're consuming, and have that influence the amount of sex that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're in the early stages of development in AI, and again, it's really simple because the automation piece all comes from whether it's the algorithms, the patterns, and or the workflows that you embed within this technology. But the bigger piece that I wanted to highlight is because we're at its infancy, because we don't have to worry about shit like autocorrect, I think people who create AI or who work in it, I think we're at a point where we need to take a little bit more responsibility, because if we get to a system to where, it can have a bigger influence, it can coerce you to do things, whether it's more frequent sex, less frequent sex, this condom, that condom, this time, that time, it's going to open up a whole slew of issues, I believe, in the long run, especially with personal health data and all things involved. Since I'm wrapping up my end of the episode, are you guys have any final thoughts on any of your topics or what we covered?
No, I'm good.
Dre?
I don't know. I guess this is kind of a lingering thought from what we were just talking about, but I feel like AI is probably going to take a backseat fairly soon. And cyber terrorism and all that stuff is going to be kind of in the forefront of a lot of people's minds, mainly because I don't know what you guys do. I'm fucking sick of fake news. And that stuff is sneaky. It's not even
well, there's
legit,
deep fakes now,
What's up?
You heard about deep fakes?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Once deep fakes becomes a more widely used system, combine that with the way that fake news outlets and people using redirects and URL spoofers and things like that, dude, we're gonna get to a point where we can't even tell what the hell is what. Fox News is gonna go full democratic and like CNN is actually going to take a position on something, and you're not going to know. You're going to be like, "Oh, this is different," but like everything points to the fact that it's legitimate. So I mean, that's what we're going to get to at some point, and I feel like someone's going to do something about it, whether it be the government or white hat programmers and things like that. Someone's eventually going to create a solution for this, and then hopefully if we survive this, we'll make it to the next stage of AI.
Yeah, all I'm saying is please don't create a Skynet. That's my final thought. Keep it simple.
Do you think that'll happen though?
I mean, it's possible. As someone who works in tech, I mean, you've read a lot of the news stories, and even though I'm not in the heart of the AI discussion, I've done my fair share of research, and yeah, it's definitely possible. But on a more positive note, if you have your own differing opinions about this episode, you could reach us at Gmail, TheRelationshipPodcast with 1P at gmail.com. Hashtag please no more dick pics. Hashtag please send us something relevant or funny, like cute dog pictures. You could also hit us up on IG with the same handle. Just drop the at gmail.com. We post TRP 30-second segments, random stuff. You get to know the TRP a little bit more personally. I also post up whenever I post new articles about the Shuffle Around life. I already posted the Knowledge Part 1 series. I hope you guys got a read on that. Part 2 will be coming out this weekend. And then we also have Twitter at the R Podcast. You want to tweet at us, say what's up. Again, please don't send us any dick pics. Again, saying this the second time around. YouTube, we have all the social media links on the copy of each episode, and we have a running playlist. So if you like to leave it on in the background and enjoy it during your trip up and down the California or Oregon coastline, feel free. Patreon donations are welcome here. And yeah, just wanted to wrap it up, and we hope you enjoyed this second three-way episode. My name is Ryan.
This is Dre.
They're going to dress up their dick as a dog now, right?
Wow, John.
Hot dog.
Okay.
All right, laters.
Laters. This is our non-salty disclaimer. We here at the Relationship Podcast do not discriminate based on race, sexual orientation, income levels, political affiliation, religion, and or creeds. These opinions are solely based on our own unique experiences, and they are not the exception. We are always open to everyone's personal life experiences that are being shared, and at the end of the day, we can always agree to disagree. So please enjoy our podcast.
No problem, just rush hour.